Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to go over some news that has come out of AMC Cinemas in regards to their current state of affairs with Universal Studios. Now, I did a video about this in late April when it was first announced that AMC and I believe also Regal were going to deny Universal the ability to show their films in AMC and Regal theaters because Universal was choosing to release certain titles directly onto video-on-demand services. Now, when it came out, I said this is a stupid move by AMC. This is a stupid move by Regal. This is an incredibly dumb move by NATO, which not the NATO stands for National Association of Theater Owners, not the other NATO. Which I'm surprised they didn't change their acronym a little bit, just so they weren't confused. But basically, all three of those, AMC, Regal, and NATO, all came out and said, no, this is wrong, this is bad, you can't do this. This is going to destroy the theater system, yada 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 yada. And the theaters were closed down anyway, so it didn't really matter. But AMC decided to take a stand on that, and they decided to try and throw their weight around, which the weight that they obviously did not have and still don't have because they're taking record losses at the moment, along with every other major theater chain. There's been rumors going around that AMC may not even reopen their theaters. They may actually go out of business, and they may get bought out by Amazon, which, again, all of these things I think are still on the table right now. Not too many of them have been disproven, but AMC has reportedly reached a deal as of, I believe, yesterday or the day before with Universal Studios. Now, this deal, it shows that they caved, basically. I think AMC went to Universal and they begged them to do some kind of a deal, and Universal said okay. Or Universal maybe threw them a bone because they knew that AMC was floundering. Because basically the deal goes is that any particular film that Universal wants to release on video on demand early means that they can release it 17 days after its initial theatrical release. So if you're releasing it in theaters, 17 days later is when it'll hit home media. Now, that also means that AMC is going to stop showing it after 17 days, unless Universal chooses to forego the VOD, the video on demand release, and continue the theatrical release, which I think will probably wind up being on a film by film basis. Now, again, AMC has also extended this to other Hollywood studios. Other Hollywood studios don't give a shit. I'm going to say that right now. Disney, I know for a fact, probably does not give a shit. Actually, I shouldn't say I know that for a fact, but I would be willing to guess with beyond a reasonable doubt that they don't care, because they have a streaming system or a streaming platform that needs content. So if they're releasing theatrical films on that platform, I don't think they care what AMC thinks at this point, because they could buy and sell AMC 10 times over if they wanted to. I think the only reason why they care about AMC and Regal is because they still do want to commit to theatrical releases. And I don't think they're going to change their release format for the most part on at least their major tentpole films. That's why they're waiting on Black Widow and Mulan. They're not going to release those on Disney Plus, or at least they haven't stated they're going to. They're going to try and get those into theaters because they know it'll make more money there, and they know that these films are built for theaters. And I went over this argument in my last video, where there are some films like Trolls 2, which Universal put directly onto video on demand, which is a family film that would do well on that format because it does well because it's a lot of people. It's a thing you bring the whole family to. It's mainly a kids movie. Mom and dad can pop up some popcorn. You can sit on the couch with some popcorn and a soda or whatever you want and watch the kids will get distracted by the movie, and maybe there's a couple adult jokes thrown in there that mom and dad can laugh at. That's the type of movie that is, and that can do very well in a VOD format. I think it can do almost as well as a theatrical release. But you look at stuff like Black Widow, that's not going to do the same in VOD as it would in theaters. And the same thing you can argue for Christopher Nolan's new film Tenet. That is a theatrical film that is meant to be seen. Really, it's meant to be seen in IMAX for the most part, like a lot of Nolan films. And I think that if you're going to go to the VOD format, some films fit better than others. I think that some films should go for a full theatrical release, and some films you probably can transfer over into a VOD format and be just as successful. Um, but again, this is something that no other studio has come forward and said they would like to take this deal. I don't think a lot of other studios will. I think Warner Brothers and Disney are way beyond this. Paramount might. I don't know what their film slate looks like in the near future, but they might. I could see that. I could see maybe some smaller studios, like maybe Orion or something like that, who probably a lot of their stuff most of their stuff has kind of limited theatrical runs anyway. So I could see that. That would kind of cut things off, and then they could get right to the video on demand market. But at the same time, I think a lot of studios are going to start trying to push for dual releases. I think they're going to start pushing for both theatrical and VOD releases at the same time. So that they can get revenue from both, and so they don't have to pay the theater companies. Now, to be clear, the deal that AMC is offering to Universal, or I shouldn't say to Universal, is offering to other film studios is this: AMC would receive 20% of the gross revenue from the rentals of the films. That is the films that would be going on to VOD, and then they would have to pay 2% less for each film that it distributes. So a lot of people kind of don't know the ins and outs of the financials regarding how films are distributed through theater systems. So basically, the movie studio, a lot of the time, especially Disney's done this a lot over the years. They jack up their percentage. I think they took like 70% of the gross from Rise of Skywalker and stuff like that, the Star Wars films, and some of the Marvel movies. But basically, the idea is that when a film goes into theaters, the studio does not get all of that money. They get a percentage of that money, and the other percentage of it goes to the theaters. That's why theaters usually, they ban you bringing in your own concessions and stuff like that, because that's where they make a majority of their money. They basically get shafted on the films, because a lot of the times when you show a movie, like let's say, an average movie ticket these days would be probably, anywhere between $8 to $13, depending on what movie you're seeing, and depending on what time of day that is. So let's say for the low estimate, $8. So let's say let's say AMC has a split deal. Usually I think it's like 60-40 usually, where the studio gets 60, the theater gets 40. So in reality, AMC is only going to get 40% of that $8. Whereas the movie studio is going to get 60%. So they are still making money, but when you think about how those ticket prices work, they are not getting nearly as much money as you think you are, because when you're paying for a movie ticket, like I said, a lot of that money is going back to the studio. And I think, like I said, Disney has been jacking that up recently too. I think they've jacked it up to 70%. I'm pretty sure that's what it was for Rise of Skywalker, which was the theater split for them. Now, the interesting part about this is the 20% of the gross revenue from the rentals. AMC would receive 20% of the gross revenue from the rentals. So that is a hefty sum. That is rather hefty. I'm kind of surprised at that. So I mean, it depends on what video on demand platform that would be. And I don't think many studios are going to take this deal. I'm surprised Universal actually did. I'm surprised they didn't press them, to be honest. But maybe Universal just wanted this whole thing to be done and over with, because they want to be able to release their movies in theaters as soon as possible. So I could see that happening. But at the same time, if Universal chooses to shaft them, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that in this case, and I don't want to say this in terms of the theater system itself, because I don't think the theater system itself is dying. But I think AMC Theaters is dying, and that's kind of sad to me, because I used to like the AMC, the American Movie Classics, the television channel, back when they used to show like actual movies instead of just reality shows and reruns of Walking Dead. And I liked their service, Shudder, their streaming service for horror. I love that. I think that's an amazing streaming service, and it's one of my favorites. I watch it almost every day. So I would be sad to see AMC kind of take so many financial hits that they would have to either sell out or go under. But at the same time, they started this little flame war. They didn't have to. They chose to, along with Regal and along with NATO. They all started this thing. So if they're going to get their comeuppance, I'm not going to be sad about it, because they asked for this. And I get the idea of trying to protect your business because Universal was going to the VOD model and but I think that they need to look at what type of movies they're sending to VOD because they're not sending huge tentpole films to VOD. They're sending films like Troll 2, okay, or Trolls 2. I don't want to say Troll 2 because Troll 2 is the greatest B movie ever made, but Trolls World Tour or Trolls 2, that the Wishing Troll movie. So they're not sending movies like Black Widow and Mulan and not Die Another Day. The new James Bond movie that's going to be coming out. They're not sending those movies to VOD, and they're not doing it for a reason because they know that they'll lose money if they send them there. So I think that AMC is just very much out of touch with what's happening right now, and they're looking solely at their business numbers and saying that we're going to lose money if these films start going away. And yes, they probably will take some amount of a financial hit if these films no longer get put in theaters and you don't have mom, dad, and the kids going to see the movie because that's 4 movie tickets that you're not selling. I get that idea, but the problem is that if you're going to try and throw your weight around with Hollywood studios, it's not going to work. And then on top of that, you have Amazon, who's just kind of waiting in the shadows right next to them, just kind of waiting for them to limp along and die like an injured gazelle before they attack. I mean, AMC is in a very bad position right now, along with Regal and a few other large chains, because they have a very good chance of going under in the next 6 months if they keep losing money the way they have. And I get that this deal probably had to be made. I get that for AMC, I get this deal probably had to be made. I don't think Universal had to make this deal. I think maybe Universal did this out of goodwill, and maybe just to kind of clear things up between the two, because I know they have had this kind of back and forth a little bit since the late April announcement of AMC no longer carrying Universal films. And I know that probably had a backlash throughout the rest of the studio system as well, I would imagine, probably with other studios that were thinking of doing this, like Disney, which I think already has to an extent, Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, all the major studios. So, but I want to know what you think. Do you think that this is a good deal for Universal and AMC to make? Do you think that AMC is kind of grasping at straws at this point? Do you think that this is kind of staving off an inevitable end? Or do you think this might be the death of the theater system in general? I want to know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe. And remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?